Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. Today is Monday, the 23rd of October 2023, and these are the stories that we'll try to decipher, understand and describe and of course talk about during the course of our show. We'll begin with the latest situation as far as Palestine is concerned. The number of deaths keep on increasing with the raids that Israel is doing as far as Gaza and Palestine are concerned. The number of deaths are at least 70 people overnight in the strikes on Gaza by the Israeli forces. The total number has come to 5,087 Gazans, including 2,055 children. Remember this number because this is going to increase. 1,119 women have been killed. Dozens, of course, we talked about the 70 people who've been killed in the overnight raids. So the trend of killing people, this inhumane, barbarian attitude by the Israelis continues. The world is reacting, the Islamic world is also reacting, the West is also reacting, but to which extent are they reacting is the huge question mark that comes to the forefront. We are going to discuss different aspects of the Palestinian cause and the brutalities that are being inculcated on the Palestinians in our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the row between Canada and India. We all know what happened. We all know the murder of a Canadian national on Canadian soil, to which Justin Trudeau has given evidence as to the involvement of the Indian intelligence agency RAW. So has the Australian intelligence chief in a recent interview, who has also confirmed the involvement of Indian intelligence agency RAW. India has reacted by, of course, removing the immunity of various diplomats currently in India, as a result of which 41 diplomats were told by Canada to return back to their country. And the row continues to cause headlines because there is no headway, because India is not reacting. India is not cooperating as far as the investigation into the murder is concerned, although we all know what the real facts behind it is. This is going to be our second story. Then we are going to talk about Pakistan, that has intensified repatriation of its illegal foreign nationals from Pakistan. There is a huge number of Afghan nationals that have also left Pakistan voluntarily, and of course the deadline is the 1st of November, after which all the illegal foreign nationals will be repatriated from Pakistan. Joint efforts are underway of different agencies for the safe Afghan return. And finally, we'll be talking about Indian troops who have conducted another fake encounter in the Indian held valley in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, as a result of which 2 more Kashmiris have been martyred in Baramulla. In September alone, the number of killings has been 13. If you look at the numbers starting from 89 to date, they are 96,246, which is a staggering amount. Another evidence of brutalities that are being committed on people in an occupied region. And of course, this brings many similarities to what is happening in Palestine. Let's begin with our first story, and this concerns the Palestinian situation, the Israeli brutalities and the world reaction. More in the following report.
The Israelis are intensifying their raids, which are getting more frequent and aggressive. Different areas were targeted by the Israeli airstrikes last night in the Gaza Strip, which is considered to be the bloodiest night in the besieged enclave. Palestinian writer Hiba Kamal died in the Israeli bombing. She was awarded the first place in the short story in Palestine and second place in Arab World in the Sharjah Awards for Arab creativity for her novel, Oxygen is Not for the Dead. Al-Shifa Hospital in northern Gaza, which has the highest number of wounded patients, is on the brink of real disaster, as its fuel may run out in the next 48 hours. 2 activists from a Jewish Arab peace movement were recently detained in Israel for putting up posters with a message that the police deemed to be offensive. Across Israel, people are being detained, fired from their jobs, and even attacked for expressing sentiments interpreted by some as showing sympathy for the Palestinians. Jordan's King Abdullah at the Cairo Peace Summit condemned the war crimes of collective punishment and forced displacement of the Palestinians in Gaza. Arab leaders at a Cairo summit condemned Israeli bombardment of Gaza, as the Europeans said civilians should be shielded. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres pleaded for a humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza to end this god-awful nightmare. Veteran diplomat Jai Jun said that China believes that force is not a way to resolve the problem, and that responding to violence with violence will only lead to a vicious cycle of revenge.
To discuss this issue, we've been joined by two guests, one in the studio, the other online. In the studio, we've been joined by Dr. Manzoor Afridi, Foreign Affairs expert, who joins this program after a very long hiatus. Thank you very much, Dr. Manzoor Afridi, to have joined us here. Online, we've been joined by Ambassador Dr. Haissam Bou-Said, who is the Chief Administrative Officer of IHRC, International Human Rights Committee in Lebanon. Thank you very much, sir, to have joined us as well. Let's begin with our guest in the studio, Dr. Manzoor Afridi. Manzoor, first of all, when you look at the numbers, the numbers are staggering. 5,087 Gazans, just Gaza, in this small enclave, who have been killed since this whole, latest, spate of bombardment by Israel commenced on Palestine. The number is staggering. The reaction from the world not as strong. Why is that?
I think it's just history is repeating itself. We have seen in the all episodes of this Israeli and Arab conflict, I would say, not only the Palestinian conflict, but the Arab conflict. And even before, beyond that, I would say that Israel and the Muslims conflict in this regard, because Masjid al-Aqsa, that is sacred for all Muslims around the world. So about the numbers, about the violation of the human rights, and about the a kind of zero, reaction, a silent reaction from the world community. So it has been since long, over the decades we have seen, especially after the construction of the Israeli, the installations, the Israeli settlers have, they have occupied and they have annexed the Palestinian lands over there, particularly after the coming into power of the Hamas leadership back in 2006 and 2007. So this thing was expanding, and since that day we know that the world community is not doing what it has to do, I mean, and a really solidified thing. If we see this Israeli aggression, so nobody can tolerate it, and nobody can call it as lawful. Even the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, he has also condemned it. And all
but Dr. Manzoor, the fact remains that the United Nations Security Council, United Nations Secretary General condemns it, but at the same time a resolution is vetoed in the United Nations Security Council when it comes to a ceasefire to be put into effect. Isn't this a kind of a duplicitous maneuvering of an international organization that needs to move forward for peace in the world?
That is, and if we see the realist paradigm, I mean, if I talk through the theory of international relations, so realism, it says that there is no role of international organizations, while the liberals are idealists. They said that yes, they are very much provocative and they are really functional, I mean, the international organizations. So here, if we see this case of Israeli and Palestinian conflict, no doubt that it is very much depicting the realist paradigm where the international powers, especially the Western countries, the United States, the Israel, they have always endorsed this viewpoint, and it says that international organization will not work, but will work only when there is concern, there is interest of great powers. Those are there attached with the working of international organizations. So it is very much clear that if United Nations it is calling to end the war, and if the UN Security Council resolution that is vetoed, so it means that great power politics is there, right? And they are not working for the humanitarian cause, but they are working for their own self-interest, national interest, and they are seeing all this scenario in this situation, within the framework of these great powers, especially the United States, the European powers, relationship with Israel, with Jerusalem. This is the thing.
All right, let's talk about realistic paradigms and great power politics. We have seen the OIC meeting that happened, a special meeting that was convened. Our foreign minister also participated in that. We've seen the Cairo summit that has happened on this very issue, the United Nations Security Council's meeting as well. different countries are working together or trying to reach a solution. China has shown a lot of concern. Then there is the military buildup that is happening as well, whether it be from the Chinese side, from the US side. US is also sending troops to Israel as we speak. And there is a huge question mark as far as the ground offensive that is to happen from the Israeli side is concerned. Under all of these great power politics and realist paradigm, where does Palestine stand?
Well, this is really an important question. It has been always backed by the great powers. Israel, since the signing of the Balfour Declaration back in 1917, and after that the United Nations partition plan, which was announced in 1947, and after that the almost 2 years war from 47 to 49 between the Israel and the Arab countries. So all these episodes, it shows that there was strong backing of the great powers, on the back of Israel. It was there, and still, unfortunately, if we see the Muslim case in this regard, so it is still there. So this is, within this paradigm, there is another thing that's called hegemonic stability. And hegemonic stability, that is to create a hegemon to run the affairs of a region, and that is, in this case, in the Middle Eastern region, Israel as a hegemon and strongly supported by the great powers, as I said before, and they want to run, to moderate, to regulate the affairs of Middle East through Israel. So, and they say that a hegemon is necessary to bring stability. But let me tell you that there are two kinds of peace. One that is called positive peace, another is negative peace. Great powers, United States, they have always strived and struggled for negative peace. And negative peace is a peace between the two wars, right? So that is exactly the case in this Israeli-Palestinian conflict, right? And positive peace, when there is no problem, when all people, they feel very much safe politically, economically, by security, by all means, FDC. So in a larger context and throughout Middle East, there has been negative peace. If we see the John Galtong's theory, right, and particularly in this Israel-Palestine conflict, there is negative peace, which is unfortunately prevailing. And if great powers, if they really think about the humanitarian cause, they can do, they must do, but there should be a political will. They don't have the will, and for any cause, for any initiative, political will is necessary, where all the other things, the national interest, the bilateral interest, or all kind of other interests, they are just, put aside and put behind. Then we can move towards the humanitarian cause and humanism.
Well, a lot of question marks concerning the humanitarian aid to Palestine as well. Some has arrived in Palestine, but a lot needs to come as well. Ambassador Dr. Haissam Said, Bou-Said, thank you very much to have joined us. When you look at the Middle East, sir, with due reference to Palestine and the reaction that has come from other Islamic countries, when we also talk of negative peace and political will, how much of that do you see as far as political will is concerned amongst the Muslim world to help Palestine, to take Palestine out of this current situation and to move towards a two-state solution, if there is means to do so?
Okay, first of all, I would like to thank you for the hosting, and I would like to also salute your guests in the studio. And I also would like to rectify, I am the IHRC Chief Administrator Officer to the United Nations of Geneva. I am not based in Lebanon in my work. Okay, so my work is based at the United Nations in Geneva. Now, regarding the political will that you have mentioned here, and we think that there is a weak political will because of this interaction in economical interest between some states, local states, regional states, and international states. So the will cannot be fulfilled as we are looking at it as international organization accredited within the United Nations. And because we do not deal directly in politics, but we just go on the periphery of it. And I think maybe this is wrong because everything is being politicized today, but this is the law today, and this is the rule that we have to submit to. But anyhow, I will try to talk a little bit in between laws and politics, okay, so that we have a clear vision on exactly what's going on. No, from our point of view and where we stand from, we think that this conflict, as your guest put it, we agree with it, it's taking two shapes. The Israelis would like to put it, and as well the Americans, into a conflict between the Palestinian and the Israelis, so they can manage it easily. But this conflict, it is not a Palestinian, it is an Arab conflict. The Jews entity today that consists what we call Israel, okay? So if you don't approach this matter from this point of view, I think we will have some bad outcomes, because the income that we are talking about, it is the income that where we have lots of backing from these Muslim Arab states, and emphasize them and push them to have a goodwill to approach the state of Israel, the Jewish state of Israel that was proclaimed by not only the Jews in Israel, but also by the President of the States of America, President Biden, when he came lately to Jerusalem. He made it very clear that he is there to support the Jews state. And this is something that cannot be understood from our side, because, you know, as human rights, we don't like too much these kind of religious state, if you want. We cannot add too much, because we are in more laism and we're more in international laws than in religion. So I think that if we make a short story on what's going on, no, there is no political will to end this dilemma that's going on today. I think Israel was given the authority to do whatever she wants to do by killing elders, women, and children without no mercy, and also violating the international laws and international humanitarian laws. Now, when you say that, what is the political will that we are talking about if we cannot enter food, fuel, medical equipment, medicine? Where is this will if we cannot also liberate from both sides? I'm not talking from one side, okay? Because both sides have hostages today. Now, what Israel is trying to do is that she is trying to blackmail the Palestinians by putting the hostages in front of the humanitarian aid. And this is something very, very, very bad. And this is also another violation, because a hostage has nothing to do with the aid, with the humanitarian aid, because it is a pure military, political aspect, where we have the humanitarian aid, which is a pure humanitarian aspect. So there is no intersection point between them. And I think that putting both together give us a bad will intention and not a good will intention.
But you know, Ambassador Haissam, the fact also remains that not only is the aid not being properly allowed to enter Gaza, but there is a blockade, you know, as far as food is concerned, water is concerned, electricity is concerned. Hospitals are being bombarded. People are being told to leave the hospitals and to leave Gaza as well, in the millions. How do you explain it as you know, heading a humanitarian organization? What are the other humanitarian agencies saying? Is there any effort being done on a collective level?
Well, it's not only hospitals, but schools, mosques, and even the UNRWA building also are being threatened to be bombarded by the Israelis. And they were told to evacuate all the Palestinians from these buildings. And we are talking about thousands of them. I'm not sure where we are going to, take them. And we have seen that Israelis have made a trap, if you want, when they called all Palestinians to move ahead from Gaza to near cities so they can be transferred later on to Sinai. How they bombarded this convoy Okay, so there is no trust in the Israeli actions, if you want. Now, in regard to the humanitarian continuity, if you want, we are very worried that it's not going to be done as the way we are seeking it to be done, because we are under the Israelis, if you want, the Israelis' mood, whether he's going to accept or not. There is no, actually, there is no pressure on them to force them to open widely the corridors so that we enter this humanitarian aid as it's done according to the international humanitarian law.
All right, Ambassador Haissam, also I'd like to, point towards what is happening and how, Israel is reacting day by day, and how the atrocities are increasing and how the Palestinians continue to suffer. We have understood what you've tried to portray to us as far as the reaction from the world is concerned and the political will is concerned. Then on who does the onus of responsibility stand now? Is it the Muslim world that should take up the responsibility? Is it other regional organizations or global organizations that need to take up the responsibility? Who should now do the needful? Is it the UN? Because therein also resolutions are vetoed when it comes to halting the ceasefire, going towards the ceasefire.
The UN will be the auspices of all efforts that should be done. Basically, all Arabs, Muslim states, international, European states, international communities as well, they have to hold all and bear all these responsibilities to find quick solutions to ceasefire and to open all these corridors from Egypt to Gaza, so that we can be able to send all what is needed to be sent to the people of Gaza. Now, number two, also to pressure and put a lot of efforts to stop this behavior of the Israeli army and the government of Israel, that they are, trying to transfer all the people of Palestine from Palestine. And we have a lot of documents that proves the contrary of what they are saying today, because it seems that there is a complot that Israelis army and government are trying to achieve from this battle. But I think that according to what we know and what we see and what we feel on the ground, that the battle will continue, and it's going to be, we are going to face heavy battles, and we hope that we will not have some regional or international states involved in this battle. Because if the Israeli army really decided to enter Gaza, first of all, it's not going to be a trip for them, because Gaza today doesn't mean only the Palestinian authorities. It means also most of the regional countries that are supporting the troops in Gaza, and we are not going to talk about Hamas or Jihad, Islamic Jihad. We are talking about the Palestinian revolution, okay? Because maybe the approach of these Palestinian organizations could create some sensitive points. So in order not to waste the cause of the Palestinian, and it is a primordial issue to us, so we prefer to put it into the context of the Palestinian cause, and this cause will be supported, we believe, by many states that are surrounding the occupied territories of Palestine.
All right, thank you very much, Ambassador Dr. Haissam Said Bou-Said, Chief Administrative Officer of the IHRC at the United Nations in Geneva, to have joined us, to have talked to us about this very important conflict from many different points of views, which the way things are going seems to erupt in a bigger context. Let's talk about that context with Dr. Manzoor Afridi. Dr. Manzoor Afridi, China is sending its ships in the sea. The US has already sent it. The US is supposedly going to help the Israelis with the ground offensive as well by sending troops. On the other hand, it is also being said that the US is stopping Israel from starting the ground offensive so that some kind of a negotiated process could begin. The Muslim world already, is talking about this. Is this conflict going to result in a bigger conflict in the region?
It is possibility. because the Middle East, that is the conflict-prone region. Syria crisis, the Egyptian, the Saudi-Iran relationship, if we see, and the Oman crisis for a long time, and Lebanon, their war crisis, the political upheavals, and the foremost, that is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So no doubt that it can be, if it escalates to that level, so it can bring the big powers or the major powers of the world into this single point, into the Middle East, because so many stakes are there. All these are stakeholders: US, Russia, UK, China, India, and some other powers. They are stakeholders. So some have energy priorities, some have trade relationship, some have security muscles to expand their, like Russia, some have the infrastructure initiatives like the BRI, like the CPEC initiated by China, right? So all these things are there, and if we see the posture of China and the status of Beijing in the world politics, so no doubt that already the relationship between Beijing and Washington, that were those were intensified by the Donald Trump, right, when there was a trade war between these two countries, that now Joe Biden has tried to calm it down, but still suspicions are there between these two capitals. So anywhere, there's not only in Middle East, but anywhere in Africa and Asia and Americas. So if there is any move from any of these two countries, I mean US and China, so the other side, of course, it will respond. So I think it's not good omen for the peace, for the stability and prosperity of the region. It can be converted into the
a larger
great
conflict.
power politics. And the glaring example we have in this regard, the Syrian crisis. Now look how the US is involved, how Russia is involved, if we talk especially about these two major powers of the world. And of course the regional powers, the Iran, if we see, or Israel or Saudi Arabia, or some minor role of Qatar or something like that, and Syria. So same thing, it can be repeated in future if it escalates to that level. And according to reports, even it is an agenda for the greater Israel. I mean, these moves from Israel and the Israeli aggression, rights that have the claim about their ancient maps that there was a Jewish state like this, and Jews, they were the inhabitants, and they were the local people or sons of the soil, and they would create that greater Israel. So if it will move there, so no doubt then the Arab states and major powers like China, it can go towards tussle with the big powers. And now
let's hope Dr. Manzoor doesn't come to that. Let's hope that some kind of a negotiated peace process comes into place, and ultimately the two-state solution that we've been talking about since so many years. Thank you very much, Manzoor Saab. You stay on with us for our second segment as well. Ladies and gentlemen, that ends our first story, and that of course is a very worrisome story, the way things are escalating, the way things are moving. Let's hope that the political will comes into place. Let's hope that the greater power politics also move towards the right direction. Let's come to our second story, and that concerns the tensions between India and Canada because of the murder of a Canadian national, Mr. Niger, on Canadian soil by, apparently, as per the reports go, as per the statement by Justin Trudeau, and as per the statement by the Australian Chief of Intelligence is concerned, the Indian raw agencies behind it. More in the following report.
Majority of Canadian diplomats have left India after ultimatum from New Delhi. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said that the Indian government is making it unbelievably difficult for life as usual to continue for millions of people in India and Canada. Trudeau said the expulsion of some Canadian diplomats will hamper travel and trade and pose difficulties for the Indians studying in Canada. Indian External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar said that the relationship right now is going through a difficult phase. He was of the view that he does not want to say the problems they have are with a certain segment of Canadian politics and the policies which flow from that. He continued to say that right now the big concern which people have is on the visas. The US and the UK back Canada in dispute with India over diplomats. The US State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said that we are concerned by the departure of Canadian diplomats from India. Washington has said that it took Canada's allegations seriously and along with London urged India to cooperate with Canada in the murder probe. The members of the Sikh community held a protest demonstration outside the Indian Embassy in the United States, in which a large number of Sikhs from different states of the United States participated. The protesters raised slogans against India. They urged the United States to put pressure on the Modi-led Indian government to stop the atrocities on Sikhs in India.
Dr. Manzoor Afridi continues to join us for this segment as well. Dr. Manzoor, the allegations by the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, then of course the Foreign Minister of Canada, then you've got the Australian Intelligence Chief who also reiterates what has been said by Justin Trudeau about the involvement of raw agents in the killing of Mr. Niger. How does it point towards the increasing tensions between Canada and India, and where is it all going to lead in your point of view?
This is, I think, very unfortunate for the bilateral relationship of both countries. And if Canada is saying, if Australia is saying, the other international actors, they are saying about the involvement of Indian agents, especially its intelligence agency RAW. So there is a clear-cut position. It should be there and should be adopted by India. That is investigation. So let's try investigation by neutral and the very fair. Some international, investigators. Even it can be like this.
But
right,
when you call, but Dr. Manzoor, when you talk of investigations, how can you conduct investigations when India is not participating?
That is the problem. I mean, then it's very much clear. So if Canada is willing, if the Sikh community is demanding for investigation who are living within Canada, and let me tell you that there are almost 2 million Indians, they are also Canadians, they are living in Canada. So it is a big number. So if many things they are at the stake, the India should do. So if India is inviting investigation, so I think there is something fishy. Right.
All right. Yeah. Speaking of fishy things, Dr. Farah Naz also joins us, although she's not fishy, but we are talking about an issue that is extremely fishy. Dr. Farah Naz, thank you very much to have joined us. Dr. Farah, when you look at the situation, when you look at the, the Canada recalling 41 diplomats because their immunity had been revoked by India, then you see the visa delays that are going to happen as a result of that. Then you also see the Indian involvement as far as the giving of visas to Canadian nationals is concerned. Where is all of this leading to, in your point of view, on a diplomatic level?
Thank you very much for the question. I think this is leading to a serious problem between India and Canada in times to come, because India is playing very arrogantly. Where there is involvement of Indian agency RAW in the killing of the Indian diplomat, or the Indian person who was there in Canada, so Canada will definitely speak for their own people. And if India is asked for why they were involved in, and they're getting upset with that, because India needs to be held accountable by the international law, international system, and they have to give answers for that. Now, speaking about the diplomatic relationship, definitely the relations have been affected even now, and it's going to be affected even in times to come. If India is sending the Canadian nationals back home, Canada is going to do the same. That will lead to a serious problem for Indian Canadian, the NRIs who are living there, and they have to return. So India is challenging its own people, probably as the back and support of some other powerful countries. But I don't see that's going to be taken strongly in times to come. So India has to pay the cost for that.
All right, Farah, I'd like to also, state what Mr. Jaishankar said on Sunday. He said India invoked the provision of parity in Canada's diplomatic presence in the country, and that is, of course, removing the immunity that the Canadian diplomats had, and that is the reason why Canada recalled 41 of its diplomats. They say this was done in view of concerns over interference in New Delhi's affairs by Canadian personnel. Isn't this ironic? Because it is in fact in Canada that there was Indian involvement in Canadian politics.
Yeah, definitely. There was this Indian involvement in Canada where its own dual national was getting killed over there. So if India involvement was not there, India should stand strongly and explain to the international system, to Canada, to Justin Trudeau and his team that why it is like that. And then secondly, if Canada is pulling its diplomats from India, it's going to be a huge blow for India in times to come. That how they're going to deal with such kind of diplomatic backlash. And can India really afford that? Because India is a part of all the league where Canada is also an active member of. So India has to see where it is standing in terms of its relation with the Western world, particularly Canada, and if it can really sustain with the stance that it is taken now. So it will, in times to come, as I mentioned, it will lead towards several problems for India to deal with, because there is lots of diaspora in the Indian diaspora living in Canada at the moment. If India is taking a stance of sending its people from India, so definitely Canada may ask the Indian people to leave Canada as well. So how India is going to deal with that situation? Will it, where India also kind of take the Indian nationality from its people? They cannot sustain and live with dual nationality. So they have to give up their nationality and take the non-Indian resident card. So the NRIs, they are, I don't see them returning back to their home countries and living the life which they left behind, and they went to Canada for a better life. So it is leading towards serious diplomatic constraints between the two countries.
All right. Finally, Farah, I'd also like to understand this removal of diplomats, withdrawal of diplomats, and the the delay as far as visa is concerned, and from the Indian side also the suspension of visa services for many of the Canadians. Is it in accordance with the Vienna Convention or diplomatic norms in your point of view?
Well, you need to understand first, India is either they are keeping the norms of the Vienna Convention intact or not. I don't see India really care about all the norms, conditions, legal system, regulations and all of that. India does not care. India is becoming a ruthless country who is picking fights with everyone. They do not care about who is on the other side. They are just standing on their what's called indecent stance that they are holding on. That's the reason loss of minority life is getting affected. And the only fear that I can see why India is behaving this way is that they are afraid that the Khalistan movement may pick, fuel after all of this. So they don't care about the international system. They do not care about the Vienna Convention. They do not care about what is happening. And secondly, the diplomatic relations, it comes with its own rules and regulations that India does not abide by and does not care about. So here the problem is how to deal with India and how to control its, the stronger biased opinion in the international system. It has to stick to the international law. It has to stick to the human rights violation and all of that. Otherwise, things would be really bizarre for them to deal in the international system. And then probably those prominent countries who are supporting Indian hegemonic position in the region, they will also think twice whether to stand with India or not to stand with India.
All right. Farah, kindly stay online with us. We've also have Dr. Manzoor Afridi in the studios. Dr. Manzoor, at the same time, when on the one hand on Palestine there's a different backing, but here in this case, in the row between India and Canada, both the United States and the United Kingdom have openly supported Canada's point of view. Do you feel this is going to affect their relationship with India as well, indirectly or directly, in your point of view? And in the broader context, are we seeing new formation of groups or allies being formed as a result of this row?
Both are possible, because in politics I think there are more possibilities than the other fields. So regarding the first part of your question, no doubt that UK and United States, they enjoy a very good and warm relationship with India.
They're also part of Five Eyes, the sharing of intelligence.
Very much, they are cordial, and especially for the last, 17 or 18 years, if I see, since the 2005, 2006 to United States and India, they are coming closer and closer day by day. So it can directly or indirectly, it can affect the relationship. Why? Because Canada, that is more dear to US and to UK than India.
But India has a very strategic presence in the region for both the United Kingdom and the United States. So will they forego that strategic importance in favor of Canada? Or do you feel they will try to create a balance between the two?
Yeah, I think they also can't make Canada angry, for the sake of India. But on the other hand, they will also, play their cards very tactfully and very skillfully, because in South Asia they have some other motives and they have some other interests. Pakistan is there, terrorism or extremism, or China is very much here at his influence in South Asia, and all its moves towards the Indian Ocean. You know about the story of the Quad and some other alignments, and AUKUS very much active now. So in this regard, they can persuade India over it, or something like that. I mean, to minimize the trade quota of India with these countries like that. It can be pressurizing economic tactic regarding India. So that can be done. Then no doubt that UK and US, they will not make their relations very much sour with India in future, because now the world is so much connected and they have many interests with India as well. So I think it varies from region to region, can be done, but they will use their pressurizing tactics and some kind of, you can say, carrot and stick diplomacy regarding India.
I like the carrot and stick diplomacy. Let's see if that works. Dr. Farah, will the carrot and stick diplomacy work in this whole era of the world being connected as one? Do you feel that India will come under the British or the American or the Australian pressure and might cooperate in the investigation and might accept the fact that somehow directly or indirectly it is behind it?
Indian involvement, its agencies' involvement in this indecent act of killing the Canadian national, who happens to be an Indian national as well. So in that context, Indian involvement has been proven, and America has given a hint over there that yes, there is an involvement of Indian agency in the killing of the sick guy over there. So there's no question about it. Now, whether America or the Five Eyes that Canada is a part of, that intelligentsia will hold India accountable for that. This is a huge question mark, which is going to be unquestioned, like so many other unquestioned questions that is there against the Western countries and all the powerful countries in the world. So if I can give you my personal opinion, whether I think that whether the Western countries, particularly the Five Eye member countries, they will stand against India, I think this is a bit shady, because some of them may join in support of Canada, others may join in support of India. And why I'm saying that, because they have to keep their leverage on Indian side, and they have to see how to use them for their own kind of policies in the region and beyond. And I'm saying that with authority that they need to have Indian position very strong in BRICS. They need to have Indian position strong in G20, so they can take their position on other powerful countries who are emerging as most powerful countries in competition to the United States of America. So they need a proxy kind of country who can stand against all those countries who are evolving as regional or international stronger players, so they can counter them with the help and support of India. So at one side, they need India. On the other side, they are trying to put a pressure on India, like stepping them a bit strongly that you have to behave and you have to listen to us. And if you don't, this is what's going to happen to you. So to me, it's more like a broader way of looking into the entire picture, like putting, some pressure on India that behave yourself and do as we want you to do. Otherwise, if you don't, this is what's going to happen to you. We will question your own authority and your involvement in all those countries where Indian agencies are strongly involved in various activities. So it's all a very complex thing, and it depends on activities and functioning mechanisms that the world powerful countries are demanding from a strong regional country like India.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Farah Naz, to have joined us online and to have talked to us about this another important tussle that is going on between Canada and India. Expert in international relations joining us online. Final question from you, Dr. Manzoor. I'd like a small answer to it. Dr. Farah alluded to a complex world order. When you look at the different issues that are plaguing the world, whether it be Palestine, whether it be India, Canada tussle, or whether it be Ukraine, Russia, or even illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. In all of this complex, you talked of a carrot and stick, maneuvering. Do you feel the West will likely pardon India in exchange for it, working towards some of the international mechanisms that it is favoring. Let's put it that way, in the Asia Pacific. Short answer.
West has always done, and it can be repeated in future, but let me tell you that they will not compromise it, they will not compromise on Canada, because Canada, if you see the relationship, the history between Canada and US, so that is exemplary, and one of the most stable and peaceful border that exists between Canada and United States, and all economic initiatives and also in security mechanisms and apparatus. Canada has been there with the Western powers, I mean with United States and the European powers. So I don't think so in this regard, but in a larger context, because now there is complex interdependence that is going on in the world. Security is not the only concern. It may be the prime concern, but not the only concern. Now many things, those are also important. Soft power is important, trade important, infrastructure development is important. So for that reason, that this policy can stick, it can be used against India. So maybe if not there in Europe, if not there in Americas, but in Asia.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Manzoor Afridi, to have joined as expert foreign affairs. Manzoor Afridi, who stood by us during the two segments. Thank you very much to have joined us all the way today. Let's come to our last two stories very quickly. The first concerns the intensification of the repatriation of illegal foreign nationals that is going on. November the 1st is the deadline. A small number of days are left. Around 60,000 Afghan refugees have been repatriated so far. Joint efforts of the different agencies are also going on for the safe return of the Afghans. At the same time, the reaction is swift. The reaction is going on. We will see what happens after the 1st of November if certain illegally present foreign nationals do not repatriate. But of course, the whole mechanism is working smoothly as per se. Last story concerns the Indian troops conducting another fake encounter in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, in which 2 people have been killed in the Baramulla district. That brings us to 13 killed in since September alone, and 157 arrested in September, and the total number of killings 96,246 since 1989. Staggering, but then when it comes to politics, any number can be justified. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new stories, segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Stay tuned, stay safe. Allah Hafiz.